Morning, 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 Zoomers as well. Can you all hear me? Give me a thumbs up. You can. Marvellous. It's Pride Day in Brighton today, which is a day we're obviously proud of because of the name Pride. It makes us proud. Unfortunately, it's raining and the trains aren't running, but it will still be a marvellous day. I'm sure of it. We're going to start by sitting. Sorry about if you've started by lying down. We're going to be sitting comfortably in a pose that's sometimes even called comfortable pose, Sukhasana. We're going to have two blocks and a blanket, and that's all we need. And we're sitting on those two blocks with crossed legs. Not everyone can sit with crossed legs, so you can kneel if you need to for this. The blanket goes underneath the shins. The buttock flesh is drawn out and back. Good job. Yeah, good job. Palms are up. Attention is in. I was going to say down, but I think in is better. This mudra, this hand position, is known as Jnana Mudra. I quite like to think about the qualities of Jnana Mudra. So Jnana or Jnana is cognate with knowledge, to know. And that's exactly what the name in Sanskrit means. It's to know. So the question is, what is it we're knowing? Well, this is where the mudra, I think, comes into its own. So those just coming in, it's crossed-legged, both feet on the floor, because there are lots of different ways to cross your legs, obviously, in yoga, but this is very specific. There should be a gap between the legs and the pelvis. Both feet touch the floor independently. There's a blanket, if you're on two blocks, placed underneath the shins, and the palms face up. And we've got this Jnana Mudra. So one thing we can notice about it, and you can feel about it, is your thumb and fingertip touching. That's contact.
Has anyone got a problem with the sound?
So contact
no, you
and
can
touch
hear okay?
Are fortunately different things.
I can't hear a thing.
You need to be able to differentiate between contact and touch. So we want to, initially there's definitely contact. Sense organ, sense object, sense consciousness. And then we want to let that migrate into touch. So what is the difference between contact and touch? The fingers are contacting, let's let them touch. So there's something more of ourselves that we bring, isn't there? We bring ourselves to touch. Sparsha, Sanskrit word touch. So that's one, and so we bring attention. We, if we're distracted out of habit, then that's challenged. And sometimes we're distracted out of habit because we've made assumptions about the present moment that might have been true that are not true anymore. Like, I don't want to be in the present, I want to be in the future or the past or some fantasy. But the present is quite nice. It's all right, right now. It's Brighton Buddhist Centre. Man in his 50s in a tank top talking to you. Could be worse things happening. So you can feel this contact. And then the other aspect of the pose, of course, is receptivity. So the palms are open. It's got a sort of almost like a satellite dish kind of vibe. So we've got two things. We've got consciousness, awareness, recognition, represented by bringing ourselves into contact, beyond contact, rather into touch. And we've got this open palms, receptivity. Yeah? Like the receiving on a satellite dish, it's that kind of thing. And so all of this is Jnana Mudra. It's to know, the mudra to know. What is it we're trying to know? Or what is it we're knowing? Well, that's indicated by the mudra itself. It's just this moment. Nothing particular about it, but just this moment. Jaw soft, eyes soft, buttocks relaxed. St. Augustine was insightful in some ways. I didn't know him personally because he died a long time ago, but he said, if you want to know the ocean, don't try and put it in a cup. You've got to throw your cup into the ocean. So what we're trying to know is this. It's like an ocean in the sense that it's infinite or very borderless, and that it's moving, it's changing. So we throw ourselves into this. Bring our hands to prayer position. It's another mudra. It's called Anjali mudra. Anjali just means to pray. And again, we're not given anything specific to pray to. Anjali, just to pray. So prayer can mean lots of different things to lots of different people, but in this context, it means giving, or trusting, or opening, relaxing, even, surrendering. And that's something we feel in our bodies, in the buttocks. If you're tense, the buttocks will be tense. If you're surrendered and relaxed, the buttocks will be relaxed. In the inner thighs, and so on. And we'll chant Om one single time, which just means I agree. That is to this moment. There's nothing to grasp about it. You give to it instead. So we take a deep breath in. Om. And then a deep breath to relax after that. So Om can mean lots of different things, but in this context, it means I agree. I agree to what? This moment, so, and again, this moment's not abstracted. It's not what it might be. It's not what it was. It is simply what it is, which can't be grasped, but can be opened to. Release your hands and change the cross of the legs. We call it cross 2. And we're going to bring the blanket underneath the shins. The reason for the blanket, by the way, is to stop the legs moving ad infinitum. We want the legs to go down because it pulls the pelvis forwards, and that pulls the lower back in, and that keeps the back light. But if the legs go down ad infinitum, they keep going down and down and down, your lower back will tighten up. If the lower back tightens up because the diaphragm attaches to the lower back, it may be that your breath will tighten up, and that's not blanket. No one there if you want.
On one side, not that cross, but this
cross. Okay, I'll give you some support. So palms up, jaw soft. Jnana mudra. So again, we'll explore Jnana mudra in the sense that jnana means to know. We've talked about it being cognate with English words like knowledge. Okay, bring your knees towards each other. So, that's okay. Is that better? So we've got this receptive vibe going on with our Jnana mudra. So this is the first mudra we took with the palms up. So these are called hasta mudras. I was just tempted then to talk about the history of mudras, but Saturday morning drop-in yoga, it's not time for that. But mudra means a seal, I'll say that much. Just sort of seal your consciousness into a particular mode, and this mode is jnana, knowing. And remember, knowing doesn't involve tightness or uncertainty or reaching out or trying to sort of cram into yourself information and hold it. Knowing is the opposite of that. Knowing is the satellite dish, receptivity. Knowing is the index finger and thumb tip touching, perceptivity. And what we need to know, just like if you listen to music, there's a good chance, if it's good music and you're in the mood, that you might dance, or tap your foot at least. Similarly, when you're listening to the way things are, which includes the body, the breath, the brain, and everything else, there's a good chance that there'll be a response to that. It's like the moment is a kind of music. So there may be movement. That movement might be a shift of the way the brain is. So a part of the body that's tense might release if part of the brain releases. Or it might be something more overt, like a movement of the pelvis, so that the spine can move. But whatever it is, you don't hold your breath, and you relax. The Yoga Sutra tells us to relax when we practice yoga, staitilya. Relax, dudes. Bring the hands to prayer position at the heart, so the Anjali Mudra. And continue to breathe through your nose freely. Relax the buttocks. Notice, is there a connection between relaxing the buttocks and relaxing the breath? Is there a connection between relaxing generally and relaxing everywhere? And so you relax, say, the brain, the mind, the heart. So we're invited to relax. And that means being invited to let go of anticipation. Say about the future or the past. And again, we're going to chant Om. We're going to do it together. We're going to do it a bit louder than we did it before. So take a deep breath in, inhale. And then a deep breath in with a deep breath out like a sigh. Yeah, that's it. And let a few of those happen. So as a yogi, we're like a flower that's opening in the sun slowly. Or we're like, a chocolate button that's melting. Kind of melting, relaxing, giving, melting, relaxing, giving. And that's the mode we'll stay in as we release our hands. We're going to move and come to a position that I know some of you will be excited about because it's laying on your back. So that's a result. So lay on your back. You might want a block for your head. We're starting slow. We're in slow mode. But who knows where it will go? Not even I. Back, the block under your head. The reason for the block is that if the head tips back because the muscles are a little tense, then the blood flow to the brain can go down. You can get slightly low blood pressure, which can lead to you spacing out, daydreaming. So we are relaxed, fully relaxed. We've established that. We know that from Patanjali 246 to 248 in the Yoga Sutra, that is. The two meaning the second part. There are 4 parts to the Yoga Sutra. So he says that we should be relaxed. Our effort has the quality of relaxation. So let's bear that in mind as we lift up our feet and hug our legs. So wrap your arms around your shins or knees. Some people do legs together, some people do knees apart, and a bit of a roll about. Have a roll about, don't be shy. So it can be very informal. You imagine for a minute it's the weekend, right? Imagine it was a Saturday, and you and imagine it was a Saturday in a seaside town in the south of England. Where people come to relax and unwind and have a lovely, to drink coffee and to sit and eat cake. So imagine that was all true. How relaxing. Imagine on top of that, you were in a Buddhist center and no one else was in the Buddhist center apart from some other people rolling around on their backs, not worrying about anything at all. Buddhist, and you were in the top shrine room of the Buddhist center, which is a very, nice place to be. And the only thing people ever do in this room is things like roll around on their backs or meditate on loving kindness, so quite a nice space, really. So as you move, I hope that gives you a feeling of complete informality, relaxation, experimentation, and play. And you get your affirmation from your breath. When you're moving in the way that we might say is right in yoga, you feel relief in the breath, it releases. You feel like a flower that's opening, or like a fist that's unclenching. And you feel that in your breath. You feel that in your body, areas like your tailbone. So if I told you to be aware of your tailbone, there's a chance that you might think I'm asking you to do something and you might tense up. What am I supposed to do? Because you might go to uncertainty. But actually, if I say be aware of the tailbone, I'm saying don't worry about whatever's going on there or whatever isn't going on there. Or, just it's like it's not your problem. So rolling around, obviously this is great for the myofascia of the back. We could talk more about anatomy, but it's Saturday. We can have a day off anatomy talk for Saturday. Release your legs when you're ready. There's no rush. You might think, you know what, I'm having such a good time. You can stay as long as you like. Once you've released your legs, we'll take a few breaths in our own time. And, again, this is our own way. And perhaps we'll notice tensions releasing from the lower back. Raise a leg. Doesn't matter which one. Let's say that one, the one you've just raised. That's a good choice. Move the foot between dorsal and plantar flexion. Plantar flexion is pushing the toe up like a ballet dancer, and pushing your heel up is the other way. So plantar and dorsal flexion. And you can add things like circling the foot. You can just play with the movements of the foot to see in which ways you can stretch and release your leg. In which ways you can stretch and release your leg. Then turn your heel in and the toes out, and the whole leg with luck will turn out. Simply bending at the knee, hopefully we'll cross that leg over the other one. I quite like to place the flat part of the fibula rather than the outer ankle, which is the sort of bony part, the prominent part. It's all bony, but prominent part. So going above that, I find is best, but experiment. Lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor, lift your head. There's an inverted triangle. Push one hand through it, interlace your fingers around the fascia, back before you head back again. There you go, yeah, and the bit, right? Good job. Now, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is that was a current joke to do with the movies. Mission Impossible. I have to spell out my joke. Mission Impossible. Yeah, okay. Explain that. Now roll around. See if you can find a sensation that is rich enough. That's your mission. Like, rich enough for what? To derail you for a moment. Now, you've been derailed many times, and you're derailed at least for a few moments every day of your life. Sometimes you get derailed because you put a piece of good quality chocolate in your mouth. And you forget, you're like, before you sip the that you like, you're like, and your eyes close, and that is a 2-second derailment, isn't it? Right? So that's the same. We're looking for something as rich as that. Right? Sometimes I've got a friend, I just saw her profile yesterday because she texted me, and she's got a picture, her new picture of herself is her with her eyes closed and the sun on her face. And I thought, that's a lovely picture, because that's a moment, and I don't know if you can remember the sun, it's that thing behind the white stuff in the sky. But sometimes if the sun touches your face, say in the early morning and it's warm, it can derail you. You close your eyes, you're like, oh, there's no past, no future. So it's rich enough. So look for the richness. If you get the right spot, if you hit the right spot, it might make you do what coffee drinkers do when they get their coffee first in the morning. They often smell it. They close their eyes and smell it. They don't even know they do it. If you're a coffee drinker, notice next time when you get your coffee, and your first coffee of the day, and obviously the addiction's kicking in, and you smell it with eyes closed, and you're like, and then the next thing you do is sip it. It's like, right? And so this is proto-language comes out of us, doesn't it? Like oohs and ums and ahs. So this is what we're looking for in yoga. We're looking for our internal or external language to turn into proto-language. And so we need to find sensations that are suitably rich for that to happen. Okay, go ahead and release when you're ready. Place your feet down. Take 3 deep breaths, and you can even sigh out those exhales if you want. Yeah. So there's a sense, you know, that our coffee is this moment. I mean, the moment itself is rich enough. Huh? Bless you. And when we, when we sip coffee, or if someone we like kisses us on the cheek, or, if sun shines on our face, these moments are moments that we just we disappear. Right? So let's raise up the leg and move down and breathe, and relaxed and investigative and spontaneous. Bless you. Spontaneous. So you can move your foot between dorsal and plantar flexion. That's pointing the toe, pushing the heel. I always think of my dear friend Paul McLinden, who's Brighton's best Pilates teacher and maybe the world's best Pilates teacher, because he was a ballet dancer for years and years, and he can't unplant or flex his foot. His foot is permanently pointy. It's very great, makes him look very graceful. But so that's plantar flexion, the ballet dancer's foot. And dorsiflexion is where you push your heel. That's more like a dancer from Stomp. They stomp around, don't they? And then turn your heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other. Lift the foot that's on the floor, off the floor. Lift your head, plunge through the gap between the legs and interlace around. Far shin on the back thigh, head back down, breathing natural. So we're told in texts, in case you're interested, in particular the Sankhya Karika, which was written about 1,600 years ago, we're told in text that this rich moment is for the enjoyment and liberation of what is essential about ourselves. This rich moment is for the enjoyment and liberation of what is essential about ourselves. So we have to find this rich moment. You might find it more to the left or more to the right, and then you hit it. Oh, and it might make your facial expressions change. It might make your mouth go into a sort of O shape. Huh? Ooh. And then it might fade, and you might have to find another bit. You might range around and find it again somewhere else. So we're using richness to dissolve our sense of conditioned habit, the nurture side of ourselves, you could say, to dissolve that into the ultimate richness that everything's part of, including things that we think of as individual. We think my thoughts are individual, they're my thoughts, but they're not. No thought has ever been originally independently created. It's co-created. Even a hermit up in the Himalayas might have a thought about a snow eagle. That's co-created by the fact that they've seen the snow eagle flying. It doesn't arise without that. Okay. Release slow and easy. Both feet on the floor. Take a deep breath. Let me hear it. Sigh like exhales. Relaxed, deep, calm. Relaxed, deep, calm. Lift up both feet. Lift up your head. Plunge your hands through the inside of your legs and hold your big toes. You got it. Use your index finger, middle finger, and thumb. Great, good job. Let your head come back down and roll around a bit. Now, some people call this Ananda Balasana, which is a lovely name, and some people mistranslate it beautifully. And I'm not always a fan of mistranslation, but I like this mistranslation. A lot of yoga teachers call this the laughing baby pose. Right? And so it's not a million miles from Ananda. Laughing, but this is just how it's. And then Bala means infant, so I guess that could be baby or a child. So it's technically the blissful child. But I like that yoga teachers don't know Sanskrit that well, and that they say laughing baby, because there's something evocative about remembering what a laugh. Babies do lay like this. If you've ever had the misfortune to change a baby's nappy, as I have on many occasions, They as soon as you take their nappy off, they are very happy, obviously. They often hold their big toes because they're super bendy, don't have any muscles really to get in the way, no tension anyway. And they roll around carefree. They've got no idea what gender they are. They've got no idea of social etiquette, so you have to watch out because sometimes they'll pee at you. And so that's what we're looking at, not the pee at you part, but the, you know, the sort of the selfless sort of, you know, non-self-referential kind of playfulness. That's the bit. Just rolling about left, rolling about right, looking for blissful, ananda, blissful moments. Moments that are blissful are moments where we surrender back to our source, which is interdependence. That's where everything that we think of as independent, my body, my thoughts, my ideas, my emotions, they're all ultimately interdependent. Everything's interdependent. Now, I don't know about you, I could roll around like a laughing baby for ages, but we're going to release the legs and place the feet on the floor when we're ready. It's no rush to do that, just when you're ready. And catch a breath or two or three or four and easily roll over to face towards this side of the room. Oh, good Lord. Extend the bottom ribs and rest your head on your hand. And multiple times extend the bottom ribs. So use the hand that's not under your head. You lift, and then you also extend your armpit, the axilla area called the axilla, the armpit. Now, the reason why we're extending the ribs is because there are muscles in between the ribs called the intercostals. And we want to stretch those intercostals because they may be, probably are, almost certainly are, arrested by habits that are stored in our nervous system that in the yoga tradition we sometimes call karma shayum, was stored up karma. So you have to pronounce karma correctly because there's two words that sound the same in Sanskrit, karma and karma. Karma is stored up stuff that then compels you to act certain ways. Karma is sensual enjoyment. So it's very, very different. So some people mispronounce, they say, oh, that's your karma. And it's wrong, it's not right. That's your sensual enjoyment. Karma, you've got to flick your tongue if you want to say it right. Bring your top leg up, play with it. And so again, we're investigating and loosening. On a mundane level, we're massaging myofascia, which helps to bring more fluidity to it. And we're doing that between the horizontal and vertical planes with a view to bring integration. Right? The subject we know is yoga. So eventually come up to the upright position, but with all the adductor muscles on the inside of the leg agreeing, which takes time to get them to agree. There's going to be muscles that are being held in tensions that are driven by views and opinions that are stored in our nerves. So you've got to, through movement, you're releasing the muscles from what's being held, what they're being driven to do by the nerves, and therefore you're purifying the nerves. Yeah, so many of us carry expectations, anxieties, we get into arguments, all sorts of things over stuff that's held in our nerves, nothing to do with what's going on. Okay, when you're ready, we're going to try something quite difficult. We're going to try and bring our foot to our fingers. So that means all the tissue around the top of the thigh has to keep softening. Some people have the advantage of having longer arms, of course. So that makes it easy. If you've got shorter arms, it's more difficult. So you try and take your hand to your foot more than your foot to your hand, and you breathe through your nose. There's options to investigate. So some people like to extend a bit and bend a bit, or extend a lot and then or bend a lot. Probably if you teach what you do all the time and use all the time, myofascia melts, so you become, there's a bigger range of motion. And then people come to your class and think, oh, right, that's the yoga teacher. I'm supposed to have the same range of motion. That's not it. It's irrelevant. Your range of motion is irrelevant. What's relevant is that you're challenging tensions in the body breath by playful movement. So sometimes if you straighten the leg forcefully, you're going to end up disintegrating, the opposite of yoga, because you're sort of holding yourself, you're ignoring parts of yourself, you're repressing parts of yourself. So that's disintegration. It may be that we become more integrated bending the leg. So it's better yoga. So you want to integrative. Oh, yeah, coming together, mind will extend. So that's more integrative. What about my extend? That's a good challenge. I'm breathing as well. So there's lots of different ways to experiment. But anyway, don't be confused by what you see in yoga books or by what you see yoga teachers doing. It's not what it's about. It's just a side effect. Okay, bring your leg down and head down, knees up. Breathing easy and just come up from the side. Push yourself up. Well done. And you're going to lay on your other side. This pose is called the eternal one, although we're not going to stay in it eternally. But we are told in the Yoga Sutras that we should have our attention on that which is eternal. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But the ribs, stretch the ribs, stretch the armpit, stretch. So the first thing we're doing is stretching those accessory muscles to breath, the intercostals between the ribs, intercostal, several times. And hopefully that's quite nice because it challenges the habits. And the habits are conditioned into us by our society, by our parents, by our schooling, by our life story so far, and so by our friends, social networks, and so on. So to respond to the way things are, which is like an ocean, appropriately, it's best to not be preloaded, isn't it? Best to be sort of, have the nerves emptied out. Okay, when you're ready, between the and verse. So now we know why we're doing it. We're encouraging fibers that feel like they're resistant to come into compliance. And we can feel that compliance isn't something that's just happening to the muscles as they come into union. They come, fibers that weren't doing the pose gradually are migrated into the pose and they agree more and more. But also the tensions that drive those muscular tensions release, which are usually assumptions about ourselves, assumptions about the future, assumptions about other people. So keep working on it. If all this sort of, I don't know if you call it spiritual side of yoga, if you're not interested in that, just moving your leg backwards and forwards hydrates the myofascia and it helps your blood to flow better and your immune system will work better because lymph flows well. So it's another argument in its favor. Eventually the leg comes up in time with union. Yoga means union. And then we're going to see if we can't take our fingers more to the foot. It takes most of us are in. I am. As soon as you get close, you think, oh, bugger it. But try, notice that part of yourself that's just like, just thinks, oh, what the hell, and try to discipline it. There's a little saying in the text called the Dhammapada, and it says, a carpenter works on wood. Someone who, a builder builds houses. The wise tame themselves. So what does that mean, to tame yourself? It doesn't mean that you can't have parties and fun. It means that when there's a compulsive part of your experience that you're not really, that feels like you kind of have to do it, that's not free, is it? So we tame that by having some discipline. Again, you can experiment with the leg, whether it it extends or bends. Is the next. Anantasana means not ending, eternal. And if you feel your body, you realize that you can eternally release. There's no point trying to get to where someone else is, because they're still, there's always a process, there's always another horizon. Don't hold the breath, let it flow. Okay, bring the leg down. If we look at Hatha Yoga texts, many of them only have one pose. So, Dattatreya Yoga Shastra only has Padmasana. Come up from the sides. Good job. We're coming on to hands and knees when we're ready. So hopefully we're ready let me just check what time we should be ready now. So come up now. So onto hands and knees and then into down face dog. Don't wait for me. I'm already there. Come on, pop up. Armpits open, pads your paws. We call it down face dog, don't we? So we can think of our hands as paws, but not quite dog paws, but more like cat paws. And cats, one of the things cats love to do, to settle, they can't seem to settle, can they, without pawing something. A cat jumps on your lap, you think, oh, that's nice, just sit down. And it's like, well, not until I've pawed your trousers, I can't. I will go on to sit without pawing, but they can't. So, we can paw our paws for the same reason, to arrive. A dog doesn't do that, but a dog can't just sit either, can it? A dog has to circle 2 or 3 times and then it can sit. Just can't do it otherwise. Because this sort of sense of gathering yourself to arrive, to settle, to pad and repad your hands, feel your armpits stretch, which is something you play into, you investigate, like dancing with someone to get to know them, You really get to know somebody if you dance with them, which is why you don't always want to dance with people necessarily. It's only if you want to get to know them. And to get to know them is to get to know the interdependent. It's not, to get to know someone isn't to know their story, where did you go to school, what are your parents' names, what are their maiden names. You don't need to know that. You need to know what they are now, in this moment. Okay, now, I love you. Just want to contextualize the next moment. We're going to bring these shoulders forwards above the wrists. And I have to say I love you, because some people might think, well, I don't want to do this, Jim. It's offered out of love. Okay, breathe into it. As is the next pose, Chaturanga Dandasana. So you just hover on it, and then you push up to another pose, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Well done. Well done. Urdhva dog, and you can put some people like to the toes under. I've got my toes tucked under, because you can do things like I'm doing, which is moving backwards and forwards, and really, and there is a sort of karmic, that is the sensual element. There is a karmic element. And you've probably heard of the Kama Sutra, because it's the Indian classical sexy book. Right? So we're interested in things like that usually. So that's the word karma, different to karma. Okay, drop knees. Come on to hands and knees. Deep breaths. Yeah, that's it. And so, yeah, that's it. We want that. We definitely do want an element of karma. That is the sensual part, because in that sensuality is intelligence, isn't there? So, there's intelligence. So as you move left and right and breathe, is spontaneous intelligence, isn't it? That, like dancing, is spontaneous intelligence. And it comes from listening. So in this school of yoga, which is called Vajrasati Yoga, we describe it as listening / response, listening, responding. Good. Now, when you feel ready, take the arm furthest away from me and feed it underneath towards me, just as I'm feeding mine towards you. And then you come down. Oh, that's nice. Stretch for the deltoid. Stretch your other arm out to fingertips and breathe through your nose. And there's an element of surrender and study and love, and they're kind of the same thing. Like, if you love anything at all, you just want to know it. That's what's beautiful about love. And if you get to know anything at all, eventually you'll know the interdependent field, right? So even if you sip your coffee and you love your coffee, sorry if this is giving people coffee cravings, but if you sip your coffee and you love your coffee, for a moment, the coffee is not about the coffee, which basically is just sort of burnt beans, but it's about the fact the richness of that moment gives you nothing that you can cling to. So you open up to the field, which is marvelous and free and liberating. And so then you go, oh, coffee's good. But you can also do it through a hug or through seeing a beautiful sunset and so on. Okay, retract your arm, push back onto hands and knees. Let me hear you take a breath that's natural for you and expressive. And let there be movements that are natural for you and expressive. And then obviously the other arm comes underneath the other direction. So whenever you're ready, feed it underneath. Palm up, extend out the other arm to fingertips. The muscle that you're stretching is the deltoid that caps the shoulder. And the deltoid has three parts, a front part, a middle part, and a posterior part. So breathe, 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 breathe. Keep the eyes soft, keep the brain soft. Breathe, 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 breathe. So the breath is our way of letting a rich sensation take us into the field. The breath is our way of letting a rich sensation take us into the field. So breathe. If you don't breathe into it, you're missing a trick. Okay, wonderful. Retract your arm, push back onto hands and knees. Take a breath, or 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 or 100. Deep natural breaths. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. We're going to take the foot that's furthest away from me and bring it onto the little finger side of the hand that's furthest away from me. That's it. And then there's an opportunity to play. So there's lots of ways in which you might do it. For example, you might tuck your back toes under and change the knee position. I quite like to stretch my back knee back and play with that. That suits me quite well. You might let yourself roll onto the little toe side of your front foot. You might take your elbows towards the floor by going backwards, or towards the floor by going forwards, or any variation thereof in your own way. But what you're looking for is something that's so rich that you can't find anything to cling to. So I was born in 1970, so that means that I watched television during the 70s and 80s quite a lot. And the wrestling used to come on Saturdays with Big Daddy and Giant. So I used to watch, I think Big Daddy's real name. It was all fake, of course, which was nice. But they would, when they surrendered, they'd hit the canvas like that, you know, when they were doing some fake move to it. So that's the kind of vibe I think we want, you know, like a canvas hitting kind of, you know, I surrender. So rich that we surrender. So that's what we're searching for as we move around. We're searching for sensations that make us want to hit the canvas, as it were. in surrender. I know not everyone will get those references, but some of you are quite old. So, so we breathe into it. Okay, coming out of the pose nice and easy. I think wrestling's not as nice now. It's sort of more, people are actually fit and healthy and actually fight each other. But those days, the wrestlers, were very unhealthy and they were marvelous. Let's bring the other foot forwards. Breathe through our nose and play. So again, you might find lifting the back knee. I find that very useful, partly because I can reposition the knee, but partly because I can feel a stretch that suits me through the groin and the thigh. So it's about finding a stretch that suits you. And suits you here means that it's the right stretch to create a sort of surrender, just as I've mentioned. In case you want validation, it's called surrender. So whatever does that is enough. You might stay with one movement or another, or you might try the elbow down thing. Of course, you might think, oh gosh, there's no chance of my elbows getting anywhere near the floor, right? And there's no problem. We're just investigating and playing. And the more you move, the more the fascia melts, and you can be surprised within a very small amount of time. You become more flexible than you think you are. A lot of our stiffness is held in our sense of doubt. Just as an aside, there's a great David Bowie track called A Sense of Doubt. I recommend you listen to it today, sitting in a chair. It's a very relaxing track. It's my David Bowie recommendation of the day. So breathe easy, jaw soft. Maybe I'll try that each week now, the David Bowie recommendation of the day. So our sense of doubt causes tension, but we can release that sense of doubt by releasing the tension, and then that makes us know. Remember, we started with the Jnana Mudra, the knowing mudra, what it is we need to know. Okay, back to hands and knees when you're ready. Take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 deep breaths. Stay loose. And when you're ready, take the knee that's furthest from me and bring it directly behind its own wrist. So that's simple. And then the foot moves diagonally across the body and you stretch back in your own time. And let's start down on the elbows, forearms and wrists. This is called Ekapada Raja Kapotasana. You can make it longer. You can make it into Adho Mukha Ekapada Raja Kapotanasana. That's just making life unnecessarily hard. And what we want to do is just get into it. So massaging breathing. Even the mania of James Brown has something of the yogic quality about it when he says, I just want to get into my thing. I just want to get into it, in his James Brownie kind of way. That's what we want to do here. We want to get into our thing. Just want to get into it. So play and breath and willingness. Play and breath and willingness. Now, the pose is called Ekapada Raja Kapotasana. Kapota means pigeon in Sanskrit. And the reason why this is called pigeon is because there are actually 3 different front leg positions. This is one of the 3. But what the back leg and what the chest do in the pose is the same, whether the front leg is in one or the other position. And that is the chest intimates a pigeon, a male pigeon, in love. What do male pigeons do in love? Well, let's try intimating this. Come to our fingertips. And some people are comfortable to go even onto the leg, but a male pigeon in love puffs up its chest. You've seen them do it in some peculiar courting ritual that seems to 9 times out of 10 frighten their prospective mate away. So you puff up your chest like a pigeon in love. And then you breathe into it. Beautiful. So the breathing into it part is important. Breathe into it. Good. Yeah. Is that helping Paul? A little bit. Okay, let's come out of that side and see how the other side is. So come down a little, bring your back knee forwards, back to hands and knees. Take a deep breath in, followed by a deep breath out. And then 2 or 3 or 4 more deep breaths. And then that will do for the deep breaths. Bring the other knee forwards, bring the foot diagonally across the body and stretch back. And then you come to your elbows, forearms and wrists. And you bring, so breathe into it. So that's the real sort of secret part of yoga in a way, or the sort of the bit that makes it really work is breathing into it. And sometimes that brings about a spontaneous response. Sometimes we wiggle a little or move a little, or perhaps we visualize and feel something releasing on the inside of the body. So after this goes, if you like, or partly close. Again, we can, if we want, we can try the pigeony part. It's the puffed up chest. There is a pigeon called a king pigeon, Raja Kapota, that has a particularly puffy chest, actually, that you can find in South Asia, the king pigeon. So puff up your chest like a king pigeon. Great. Okay, coming out slow and easy, coming to hands and knees, and straight up actually into down face dog from there. Straight up into down face dog. So as soon as you're ready, you can come up into a down face dog. And open your armpits. Breathe through as you can. And really extend the armpits. So stretch and lengthen. Stretch and lengthen. So you want to make sure it's going up through the lower back. So that takes a sense of lengthening the inner armpits, stretching them, the outer armpits. And then the thighs go back at the top. The very top of the thigh goes back, which is a breath-centered experience. The heels can come backwards. It's not so much that we're worried about them coming down, but more back. Because we want the inner groins to lift up. The inner groins at the top of the front thighs, they lift up. And they lift up to the top of the front thighs that again pull back so that we don't sag in the pose. It's better than that. That makes it a different pose, doesn't it? Because it's all about this area at the top of the thighs going back. Good. Good job. Breathe easily to yourself, brain soft. Just take your feet wider, quite wide. Wider still. Yeah, that's good. Good. Take your hands further forwards. You need a rest? Don't. Not yet. Lift your heels up. Bring them down. Sorry, it's the opposite of what yoga teachers say, isn't it? Usually. Yeah, that's changed things, isn't it? Okay, come down and rest in Balasana. Now, how are you going to rest in Balasana? You're just going to kneel first of all. You're going to kneel first of all, but you're going to kneel comfortably because you are worth it. So you can let your bum come back into the I've got for you. Okay, so there. Nice and easy. Take some deep breaths. The knees are a little way apart. We're releasing from the groins, from the top of the thighs are dropping. So this is the child pose. Come up slow and calm and easy. Now, in an ideal universe, we'd have 2 blocks each. Actually, lots of other things would happen. We'd also have a tap in our homes where dark chocolate would come out. But in other scenarios, it would sun when we want it to sun, and mortgage rates wouldn't go up and all that. So, but anyway, but we've got a part of that through 2 blocks. So that's good, isn't it? We've got at least part of the ideal world has come through. And we're going to sit on those 2 blocks with our legs extended out. And we're going to draw the buttock flesh out and back. And we're going to have a belt nearby as well. So I should have mentioned that. Everyone got a belt nearby? No, there's a belt there. Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, great. If you haven't got a belt at home, don't forget, probably if you've got a dressing gown, the dressing gown belt will do very well, but do put it back on. I have heard reports from some postmen who have been shocked by yogis who've forgotten to put their dressing gown belt back on. So we're gonna bring our hands next to the hips and lift our chests up. The belt's nearby, we're not using it yet. We're breathing on the nose. And pose that I used to not like it. Let's put it that way. Okay, Dandasana. So Danda is a stick. Danda means a stick or a staff. And what we want is the body to be as upright as we can, but in a way that honors the subject that we're practicing, which is yoga, of course, integration. So the first station of this, I call ranging around. So you're ranging around, moving left, moving right, moving forwards, moving backwards, looking for opportunities for a little bit of lift in the lower back, a little lightness in the lumbar. Right, so this is a very subtle, very lovely station. Ranging around, looking for lightness. And you know what? It's sort of endless in a really great way. You don't hold your breath. Huh? That should flow, your eyes should be soft. Now let's try another station on top of the first. We're still ranging around, but we're going to try something else on top, and that's broadening the feet. So Buddhas normally have a little smile that kind of, if you've ever done any meditation, and sometimes it goes real nice. Often it doesn't, but you know, sometimes it goes real nice, and then you get a little smile comes on your face. Right? So that's the kind of feel we want across. It's naturally broadening like a smile across the balls of your feet and the heels. And that's, you know, for me, I've been practicing yoga very regularly since 1990. And this is still the same challenge that it ever was, you know. Challenge that I give to on. Now, before I give you a reward that you deserve, we're going to add a third element, and that is called drop lifting. So we've got ranging around. I hope you're still engaging with that, looking for lightness in the lumbar. We've got broadening the feet on top. And we've got drop lifting, which is like if you drop a stone and then the water rises back up. So drop a stone from a bridge, boom, water rises up. What is the stone? It's your thighs, the top of them, boom. Dropping isn't the same as throwing or pushing. It's just letting go, boom. And it's instant. You can't partially drop a stone off a bridge, can you? No. If you don't want to fully commit, you can't go, well, I'll let go a bit. You know, let go of the stone or you're not. There's nothing in between. So boom. Letting go is now, and the spine lifts up. That's the lifting. Okay, here's your reward because you've worked very, very hard. Take the belt. Bring that around the balls of the feet. And then use that with a little help. And we'll breathe through our nose. And again, they can be ranging around, but we've got this little bit of help to help us look for lightness. Plus, we can feel the belt on the balls of the feet, so we can naturally, the word in Sanskrit for natural is the same as the word for spontaneous, sahaja. We can naturally broaden our feet. So that's different from doing it. Like, are you doing it? Yes, I'll do it. It's not like that. It's much more natural. And that means you're breathing in a way that's like it, as if it was a Saturday morning in a seaside town on a particularly holiday day. I think it's one of the most beautiful days of the whole year. I love Pride so much. It's just wonderful. In Brighton, it's just a wonderful weekend. So imagine that, it was a weekend where people are relaxing, having a lovely time, enjoying it, So let's practice yoga like that, like it was a holiday weekend in a holiday town. Okay. All right. Ease off. Well done. Take a breath, or two, or three. We're going to try something that took Homo sapiens 2 million years to learn how to do. We're going to do it about 20 seconds. Let's do it together. Come on. Standing up. So it took a long time to learn to do that. They're Homo erectus. It's our deep ancestor. Of course, apes can do it, but they don't do it so well. They do it more like that. Because their hips are different and their knees are different. We've got 2 blocks. Hold those 2 blocks in your hands. If you're at home, and put down on the floor, a set of books or something like that. The feet should be level, parallel to each other, and not turned in or out. So you imagine you're standing on railway tracks, like the ones at Hove Park or Brockwell Park in Brixton, Herne Hill. And then you raise your bricks up. Very good. And tone your tummy up so it draws in and up, and see if you can stream fibers of the deep belly into the lift by moving around. So your tummy, if anyone were to flick it, and I won't, if anyone to flick your tummy, it should feel taut like a drum skin because you're drawing it in and up, fiber by fiber. Fiber by fiber, and a pelvic floor, and brings a powerful buoyancy to it. Inhale, stretch higher. Exhale, fold. Now, where you come to, bricks like that, wherever. But you want your chest to be open, right? Chest to be open. So we're not closing from the pubis to the breastbone and beyond. It's open. So you have to have the right height of brick to condition that openness. And then play with it. You can move forwards or backwards. I quite like doing that. I quite like lifting my heels, and I like lifting my toes because it hydrates the myofascia. That hydration and melting will condition a release of the pelvis that conditions a release of the back. And for some people, if they do this for long enough, the tissues will melt and they might take the blocks from full height to a mid height, or from mid height to a low. It's not that that's the ambition, it's just a sign that we're releasing some tensions from extraneous fascia. So you can come wherever. Some people have got very mobile hamstrings. This is unlikely, but just so I don't leave anyone out. And they might not want to use the blocks at all. You could hold your elbows. I've heard yoga teachers say, bring the crown of the head to face the floor. I disagree. The head should stay in line with the spine. And if there's a tilting of the pelvis that tilts the spine, then the head may eventually point towards the floor alongside as a sort of final expression of everything else. But it shouldn't move independently like that. It should stay in its natural alignment with the rest of the spine. Eyes are soft, brain is soft, throat is soft. This, of course, is Uttanasana. Ut means intense, tan means also things, but in this context. So, if you took your blocks a little lower, take them a little higher, or come back to them. If you abandon them all together, then take them to their highest setting. Then to go as high as you can on your fingers, look forwards, lead with the chest and come up. Pull down to the heels, and then shake your energy down to your feet. Right? Shake your energy down to your feet, so you feel it right the way down to the feet, and then walk your feet towards each other, and we'll bring ourselves into Tadasana. So the feet, the legs together. The feet might not be, depends on the shape of the legs, but the legs are together. The arms are down and the head is up. The breath is through the nose, if you can. Imagine you're holding shopping bags. And if it's anything like it is in our house, we have to buy an awful lot of Oatly barista in our house. We go through it like it was water, because everyone's always making cups of tea and so on. So I'm imagining now I've got 6 in each shopping bag, Oatly barista. Other oat milks are available, other milks are available. I have to say that because this is the BBC, Brighton Pride Centre. Thank you. It's one of my jokes, and you have 7. And so imagine these heavy bags, really heavy. They've got 6 oat milks of your choice, or other oat milk. And they're pulling down. And so to stop your spine feeling compressed, you have to push back up, right? Can you imagine? Are you imagining these bags? Add another carton to each bag. Go on, imagine. Oh, they're heavy now. And so it pulls your shoulders down away from your ears. But you counter push back up to extend the spine. So you get this sort of sloughing off feel, like this sort of outer body, the soft tissue sloughs off and down. And then the inner body, the skeletal body, pushes up. And those two things are relative to each other. The sloughing off, the bags are very heavy, and the pushing up. And this is a very powerful release in this pose. Maybe one time we'll actually get some shopping bags and do it with the bags. But if your imagination is good, it will work just as well. Super heavy. Okay. Now you've got to imagine the shopping bags. Someone's taking them from you. Okay. Because you don't want to drop them. Someone's taking them, and you bring your hands to prayer at the heart. This is Tadasana Namaskara. Namas means bowing or reverence. Kara is an action. Namaskara. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, tongue soft. Be aware of the center of your central channel, in other words, the heart. And imagine in the center of your central channel is a mantra, spelt T-A-M. Imagine a straight line across the A and a dot underneath the M. So the pronunciation is tongue. Tongue. The M is actually just a nasal sound. Tongue. Imagine you're planting that in your heart where your hands are. And this is the bija mantra of green Tara, the beautiful bodhisattva of compassion that we're planting there to orientate ourselves to our center, so that all our actions today and speech and thoughts are expressions from the center, rather than just being caught up in the snowstorm of the peripheral. Release your hands slow and easy. And we're coming to our final pose, which is Shavasana. And it's incredibly popular, this pose, so I'm sure you'll be in it before I can blink my eyes. So we're coming to Shavasana. This pose is actually a practice if we look back further in the yoga history. And we'll talk about what that practice is in a second. But firstly, lay yourself down. Make sure you're warm. Bit of a chilly. So make sure you're warm, put on socks and whatever else you need. And blanket over the top of you. If your head tips back, it's definitely a good idea to have some head support. Really good idea to have some head support. As I say, the palms face up when you lay down. The common mistake is to bring the legs too far away from each other. So avoid that. Avoid the legs being too far away from each other. And another common mistake is to bring the arms too close. So have the arms really generous, hands completely off your yoga mat. Legs not too wide. If you scoot your shoulder blades under, your chest will feel buoyant and light. Let your eyelids close over your eyeballs. Your eyelids close over your eyeballs. Great. Now this pose, as I said, is more of a practice than a pose. And the aim of the practice is very important to understand because the aim is called layanam, melting. The aim of the pose is to melt. The Dattatreya Yoga Shastra says, find a place you can be on your own. Place where you're not compelled to be or not be anything. Place you can be on your own. And lay on your back as if you were dead, it says. Lay on your back as if you were dead. With your limbs are loose. The limbs are loose, the arms, the legs, the head. This, the text tells us, is a wonderful sanketa. That is a secret practice. Taught for the purpose of dissolving. Imagine the skin, the muscles, the bones, all melting, dissolving the boundaries between the skin and the floor, between the breath and the brain. Between us and them, you and me, here and there, success and failure, have and have not, gain and loss. feel into your body like it was something new. You can move your toes, fingers, stretch your arms, stretch your legs, stretch in various ways. And when you're ready, bend your legs and place the soles of your feet onto the floor. Just scoot the buttocks under. Just sing away from the shrine side. The knees drawn up in a tummy self. Knees drawn up in a tummy self. When you feel ready, roll again and lay as comfortably as you can on your other side. And it's from there that you begin to let a little light and color filter gently into your eyes. Perhaps a bit of sound and sensation. And you might rub your eyes. You might stretch out an arm or a leg. And when you feel ready, you bring yourself up nice and easy from the side. And bring your hands to your heart center, facing towards this shrine with Tara, the green Tara on, who we've already placed her bija mantra, Tom, in our hearts to orientate our behaviors from the heart. And we're just going to say a little line, and if you agree with it, we can say Tom at the end, which will affirm it and carry it through. So here are the words, if you agree, as I will agree with Tom, you can agree as well. May any benefit gained in our acting in this way this morning go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings. Tom. Thanks very much indeed for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Like that. Thank you. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. Thanks Zoomers as well for coming, and roomers and Zoomers. It's really good to see you. Ma, try and be good. That's the love. See you soon. Ciao.